Oh, salam, Queen of Queens, Phenix, Ramadan, LJackson, back in the light of Brazeera Cyber Network. Joyous Capricorn new moon and joyous annual celestial return to Dr. Martin Luther King. So we got, and we have a lot to be expected, right? For the coming of Uranus as it enters Taurus, right? And because that's going to be a lot of power, right? Uranus in Taurus, and Aries in Aquarius, and Jupiter in Mars, Jupiter in Scorpio, and what else do we got going on? Oh, and Laylat al-Qadra, right? And Ramadan, right? All in the month of May, right? The month of May. It's going to be a powerful month. It's going to be a very accelerated month. This is going to be an accelerated year, an accelerated time, right? Where the consciousness, where the energy falls onto the earth, and the earth begins, the consciousness of all humanity begins to change, okay? So it's going to be a very, very powerful time, and especially during the month of May, right? And we even have Mother's Day in May, right? So it's a time to stay very, very focused, because as I stated, it's going to be a very accelerated time where events happen so rapidly, and it can be very, very confusing. So the best thing to do is stay focused on your goals and prayer to keep you guided, right? And if it's always accelerated, it's going to be emotional, right? Very sensitive time. So do your best to stay emotionally stable, and just remember some of the emotions that you may be feeling, may be external. They may not be internal, okay? So really examine your emotions, okay? Because the consciousness is going to be coming in fast, right? Okay, once we get to May, and focus on your prayers, focus on your fasting, focus on Siam, and focus on Siam, and focus on Salah, okay? And that is focus on fasting is Siam, and prayer is Salah. So focus on your deen, and deen is faith, right? So that's what you got to do. No distractions, okay? If that wedding takes place between the beast and the one that's to become the whore of Babylon, okay? The desire for New Babylon, don't focus on that, okay? Focus on prayer, because the world is going to be changing so rapidly, and those forces out there, are still desiring war, right? They want to get in Iran. They want to get them in some of Iran's ass, right? Because Iran represents what? Iran represents Uranus, right? Iran, just take the I off and put the U on. You got Uranus, right? Urine. That's what it say, right? But anyway, Uranus, right? So they want to get in Iran's ass, okay? Because what? Uranus represents masculinity. The energy represents masculine energy. So for them, it will be like, getting into the man's ass and controlling all humanity, right? And controlling this new consciousness that is to arrive, began to arrive in May, right? Because Taurus is an earth planet, right? Or not an earth planet, but an earth sign, right? And it's where the Pleiades are. It represents the Pleiades, right? The seven sisters, right? Where all those, occults, secret organizations get their knowledge, to strive to get their knowledge from, right? Okay. Oh, and something else we got. Since we had the Capricorn new moon, okay, this is, see that? Certified meat cutters, right? Got the blade ready for what? To cut out the bell shit. We're going to cut out the bell shit, right? This is to cut out the bell shit, okay? We're going to cut out the bell shit. That's what this is about. Cutting out the bell shit. That's what this video is about, okay? Now, and how we're going to talk about how we're going to cut out the bell shit? By recognize what money is for, right? Okay. And what really holds value, okay? So anyway, so now, as we said, they want to get in Iran's ass. They want to still got that war. They want to get started, right? Because they want to block the consciousness that's going to liberate all humanity from what? From the subjugation of what? The Antichrist, who's been, whose system has been an operation since the time of Babylon, right? With when and they can be recognized, as we said, by their constant, enslavement of the Hebrews, right? First they were enslaved in Babylon, then enslaved in Egypt. Then they were enslaved in ancient Rome. Then they were enslaved in Rome again. Then they were not only enslaved in Rome, but they were stolen from Ethiopia and various countries in Africa, and then shipped over to the so-called New World to construct the New World, right? Whereby the New World profited off their enslaving them. Then what did they do again? The Babylonians, the reincarnation of the Babylonians, right, through the Rothschild Zionists, British Zionists, invaded Libya, right, and destroyed its country, right, and then began to enslave the Africans again using the Wahhabi the Wahhabist, Sauds of the British Wahhabi kingdom of Solomon Saud, okay, known as Saudi Arabia. Those are the ones that are selling the Africans into slavery, are through and they're being trafficked through Libya, and it's a Wahhabi Zionist, okay, with the help of the Rothschild Zionist Israel, British Israel. They're the ones doing it, and they want you to think that it's the Muslims doing it, the Arabs doing it, when the Arabs have been they've been very vocal, exceedingly vocal, against the trafficking of humans, the traffic of human cargo, the trafficking of Africans. They've been exceedingly vocal about this. The Muslims have been very vocal about, against trafficking Africans. The Iranians have been very vocal. The Syrians have been very vocal against the trafficking of Africans. And it was after they, assassinated Gaddafi that they began trafficking Africans out of Libya, through Libya, because Muammar Gaddafi wanted to unite Africa. He wanted to build a World Bank for Africa. He wanted to build International Monetary Fund for Africa. He wanted to build a Federal Reserve in each country in Africa, so they would no longer have to borrow from the the European International Monetary Fund, and do so, and when they do so at very exorbitant interest rates, by which makes it impossible for the African nation to pay back the loan, and then defaulting on the loan would cause the African nation to have to sell off its natural resources to investors, Western investors, and thereby they no longer hold entitlement to their own natural resources, and that is what causes poverty and starvation, famine in many of the African countries. It's intentional, okay? And Gaddafi wanted to stop this, and many of the Arab nations were in a line with Gaddafi in his desire to not unite Africa, and that's why he was assassinated, along with wanting to purchase, to create their own currency. Okay, they too were going to drop the dollar. Okay, and they were going to at this time I can't really remember exactly what kind of. I think they were going to create their own currency backed in backed by Libyans' gold reserve. So that's why Gaddafi was assassinated. Okay, and unfortunately it was American government that aided in with the aid of the Zionists in the occupied land of Palestine, that aided in the assassination of Gaddafi, because he was going to unite Africa, and and in the exploitation of the African nations, but anyway, so we're going to talk about money. Now, why was money created? Money was created to represent the wealth, okay, of the landholders, or as they called them, the landlords, right? And it was basically credit. It represented their wealth, as does the paper dollar today is supposed to represent a certain commodity or something else. Okay, but most today, what it represents is labor. Okay, human commodities, basically. Because it's especially the American dollar is based upon, let's say, the perceived income that the person has the potential to earn, right? And then, so that, then let's say a debt is extended, or credit is extended to that individual, to the government of America, from the Federal Reserve, right? And that then the individual, or the individual, is, as he works, is supposed to, be paying that debt back to the Federal Reserve, to the form of taxes, right? Okay, so that's how the money system in America is backed up today, basically off of human, it's slavery. Basically, it's backed up basically off of the American people, right? And in most countries that have a Federal Reserve, it's based upon, the citizens of that nation. Now, as I said, money, paper money, okay, was initially created for the wealthy. It was not the landowner. It was not created for the peasants. And the peasants were the farmers, those who worked the land. Okay? So therefore, if the peasants weren't to have any money, okay, any paper money, because they didn't have any land to to back the dollar, not the dollar, but the money up, right? If they didn't have any money, any land to back it up, then of course they didn't have any commodities, to goods by which, were grown from the land, right? To support the currency, right? So therefore, they were to remain poor, as they are now. As many of much of the world's population is now, because money wasn't created for the mass, populations of the world. Money was only created for the landholders, right? Because they couldn't go around, carrying all their commodities, so they had devised a way to make it feasible to represent their wealth, and currency did that, right? So the paper money is basically debt, okay? So the real wealth was always in the land, as it is today, okay? It's in the land, and that's why we have the pussy grab on Jerusalem, right? Jazaza drums or Trump grab on for Jerusalem, right? And which is no more than, again, trying to steal the Holy Land from the Hebrews, okay? The Judeans, okay? Now, because Babylon, right, okay, was and is the Antichrist, right? And they have been the ones, as I said, that have continuously, enslaved the Hebrew people, right? And okay, and the prophet born of a virgin, okay, at that time was a Hebrew too, right? Okay, he was a Hebrew, okay. So therefore, they are against, the prophet born of a virgin. They're against that spirituality because what? They want to get they wanted to get the Hebrews under the Babylonian jurisdiction, right? To worship who? But Baal, right? The bullseye, right? They want them to worship Moloch, the bull, and that's why in Egypt, what did they worship? The bull. And even on Wall Street, they still got the bull, right? They call it a bull's market, right? So those are the Antichrists, right? The Babylonians are the Antichrist, and it's been the same. It's been the same, it's been the same not individuals, but it's been the same spirituality, okay, that has been plaguing humanity since its inception, right? Since its creation, right? The Antichrist, those who go against the will of the Creator, right? The divine Creator. And the goal has been the same, to get humanity under his jurisdiction by getting them out of this jurisdiction of, Allah, right? And as we said, Allah is the name worshipped by, Allah is the Creator that is worshipped by Jews, Christians, and Muslims, right? So, as I said, so it's been the same spirituality that has been worshipped throughout time, okay? And they have those who worship this, Antichrist spirituality. Their goal is to make humanity, it's to subjugate humanity under its jurisdiction using commerce, right? Using the banking system, right? The money changers, right? Get the money changers at the temple, right? The synagogue of Satan, right? Okay. Now, so, and again, money was only created for the wealthy, for the landholders, right? Those who owned, controlled the land, right? Okay. And as I said, because the dollar, okay, which was the which is the world currency, which every things that are bought on the international market are traded in dollars, and the dollar is losing its value because of all the war and all the debt that is acquiring because of war, right? To feed, because Rothschild, through the Vatican, owns the Federal Reserves throughout the world, right? So, and it's controlled by the Vatican. It's administrated by the Vatican. And the Vatican and Rothschild is the one, his cabal, synagogue of Satan, is the one that established Israel, right? The Zionist, British Zionist Israel. Okay. So, all these wars that have been fighting on the so-called war on terror, right? They have been doing so, using American military might, right? As its proxy war machine, right? Military industrial complex to fight these wars, right? And America borrows great deals of, billions of dollars from the Federal Reserve, basically from Rothschild, that they have to pay Rothschild back to aid Rothschild in, or support Rothschild in creating his British Zionist Israeli synagogue of Satan in Palestine, the Holy Land. So when the Drumpf, made his statement that he was to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of the British. Think about it. The British, he was going to recognize Palestine, the Holy Land, Jerusalem, as the British, as the capital of the British, of Rothschild's British Zionist synagogue of Satan. So what does that say about the Drumpf? What does that say about him? That he's the Antichrist. He's serving the Antichrist. Okay? Because the true Hebrews were taken out of, were taken into Egypt. Well, no, they were taken into first Babylon, right? They were taken into Babylon, right? And then they were taken into Egypt. Then they were taken into ancient Rome. Then they were taken into Rome, which is Vatican now, and by way of the Vatican and the Spanish Crusades, not Crusades, but the Spanish Inquisition. Then, or let's say Spanish Rome. Then they were taken from Spanish Rome, basically, which is, the Vatican, supported, them being sold, kidnapped and sold to, in America, this so-called New World, right? So, and they were stolen from what? The Ethiopian kingdom of Judah. Okay? So those are the ones that are the true Hebrews, right? And even the, many of the Muslim countries Arab leaders, even the ones that, you know, are the overseers of Al-Aqsa Mosque, and that is the Temple of Solomon, have sent letters to various religious leaders in America recently, as maybe last month, informing them of their true identity, that they are the true Hebrews. Okay? That's what they've been doing. And they've been informing them that the Hebrews that are in, or not the Hebrews, but the fake, you know, the British Zionists that are in occupying Palestine are the synagogue of Satan. Rothschild's British Rothschild's British Zionist. Okay, the Rothschild British Zionists that are occupying Palestine are of the synagogue of Satan. And this is the same Rothschild British Zionists. These are the same Rothschild British Zionists that Jazaza, okay, Drumpf, seeks to recognize, you know, Jerusalem as their capital. So what does that say? So he can build what? His tower there. Tower of what? Babel? The one Allah destroyed? So what does that tell you? And wants to get in the ass of Iran, right? So they can do what? Block the consciousness as it descends upon the earth by way of Taurus, the earth sign. And it said what? It said what? This consciousness is in Taurus. Taurus represents of the Pleiades. Pleiades represent the seven sisters. Seven sisters represent the higher consciousness. Those are constellations there, or seven constellations, I think, or seven stars, seven constellations. So yeah, and these constellations are described as, their name is not Tiamat, but Kemet. Kemet, yeah, as in Kemet, as in Egypt's Kemet, right? And so this consciousness is coming from that, from that constellation, right, of Taurus, right? And they want to block it, right, as Uranus goes there in Taurus, right? And Uranus is going to go there in Ramadan, right? Well, right after Ramadan, no, wait, let's go here too. And it's stated, okay, now, mind you, that we're still going through the galactic alignment, right? Okay? And as we're going through the galactic alignment, right, there's going to be a polar shift, right? Right? From north to south, right? Now, we just also, so that's going to be going from male to female, right? Okay, because the female represents the southern hemisphere, as the male represents the northern hemisphere. Okay, celestial hemisphere, right? Now, because Allah said there's two east and there's two west, right? Okay, so north would also be like east, right? As it represents the male constant, the polar, okay, the poles rather, okay, celestial pole, right? Okay, now, or the Tropic of the Tropic of Cancer is what I'm saying, right? Okay, and that would also still be a pole, right? Because we have what up there, the North Pole, or that would be the what would that be? What's that pole up there? celestial pole. I forget the name of the celestial pole up there. But anyway, I forget the name of that pole. Anyway, so the northern hemisphere, the Tropic of Capricorn, Cancer would be considered male, as we just divide the universe in half. Let's say the solar system in half. We have we're gonna go to, until I get this straight, we're gonna go to video 2. Salam alaikum.